Now, we're going to transition a little bit. One of the things, men and women, that I wanted them to discuss now is, one, you've seen that business is mission. What does that mean? Business is mission. What did the panel say that business is mission is about? You just shout it out. Was one of the things maybe that was a highlight to you that was maybe compelling when they said business is mission means, what does it mean? Is it ministry? It's ministry, right? It's your mission field. Or as they said, it's their flock. Then we start talking about some temptations and challenges and ways that you guys can overcome those and also be effective by modeling Christ. What I want to now discuss with the panel, though, is, okay, you're in the marketplace. You are around people who are not believers. You know this. Oftentimes in our culture today, because of the tolerant side of things, they say just be nice to people and just do your thing and don't really push your religion on them. You guys ever been told that? Don't speak what you believe, just shut your mouth and go along with your business. Well, that's not really biblical. And obviously in America, it's not even constitutional as well. So what I want you guys to share, if you will, I'll start with you, Jason. I'll give you 30 seconds. No, I'm teasing. I'll give you guys a minute, solid minute if you can. Just kind of condense it. I'm not looking necessarily for techniques, but how do you go about sharing your faith? What certain tactics maybe that you can use, that maybe you guys are using, you've learned, that you want to share with the group of men and women here this morning about how they could be effective in proclaiming the gospel in the marketplace?
Well, how does a water fountain provide water? If you really think about it, you got a water fountain out there, it's stuck to the wall. How is it providing water to you? Is it like, oh, I got to get some water. Oh, somebody's coming up. I got to hurry up. How am I going to do this? How am I going to give them? No. It stays simply connected to the source. The secret to giving, the secret to sharing is receiving. So as we're connected to the source and you are going after the person of God with all of your heart, your soul, your mind, and your strength, the life of Jesus Christ, it explodes inside of you. And guess what happens when it's exploding inside of you? It comes out of you. And others are refreshed. Now get this, the same boiling water that softens the carrot hardens the egg. It's not the water's fault. It's the substance of what's in the water. So when the life of Christ is coming out of you, to some, it's going to be the fragrance of death. But to others, it's the fragrance of life. The problem is that when we operate at the level of do and not be, when we operate at the level of what do I need to do to share the gospel instead of God, I'm just going to be your life in this situation. When we operate at that level, then when we are the fragrance of death to somebody, we tone down what the true message that could be inside of you. Hence the reason why I came out of the chute, because God literally, before I stood up here, I felt like he deposited something in me and said, give it. So whether you were offended or not, that's not really a concern of mine, because God is doing something inside of every one of you, and because it started in here first.
He says it's not do, but be. We're not human doings. We are human beings. So we have 4 practical ways, 4 practical principles that our company employs every single day. We try in every transaction. We've taught this to all of our team leads. We teach this to every one of our employees. And here it is. Here are the 4 B's. Well, it's not all 4 B's, but it's from the level of B. Number 1, be faithful in little. If you want to be faithful in much, you got to first be faithful in little. Number 2, be a fountain and not a drain. When your cell phone number comes up on people's phones, they should be excited to pick it up because they know, hey, this guy's going to pour onto me and not just suck the life out of me and try to get all the transactions he can out of me, pitching me for everything. Number 3, produce more in value than you take in pay. Now that doesn't start with a B, but that's still a very B thing. Produce more in value than you take in pay. You never work to your pay. You work to your ability because God gave you ability. Well, that's a $30 lawn right there. No, you work as if that's a $100 lawn. When we started as lawn mowing guys, it didn't matter. If we priced it at $30 and we get there and realize, oh man, this thing's twice as high as I thought, you don't give them a $30 job, you give them a $100 job. And that brings Christ into the mix. And then the last one is breathe Jesus. I write the word breathe life. Breathe the life of Jesus Christ into every single transaction. That doesn't mean run them through the Romans road. Now, the Holy Spirit may get on you, and you may have to do that. But that means breathe life. Every transaction should breathe the life of Christ in it. and they should feel the presence of God in every transaction.
Maybe because of my upbringing, being raised in the evangelical culture, I think was a part of that. We always want to have the right answer as Christians, and we want to tell other people what the right answer is too often. As I've gotten older, a couple of mentors have come into my life. One was a mentor of mine from probably 20 years ago named Jack Rosenblum. He said, you know, Warren, sometimes being right is like winning the Booby Prize. It's like winning Miss Congeniality in the Miss America pageant. And then another mentor of mine, Erwin Lutzer, who's the pastor of Moody Bible Church, one time said to me that the purpose of Christian apologetics, this was at an apologetics conference that we were having this conversation, is not to win arguments, but to win people. And when I got clear, or clearer than I was, I'm not saying I'm clear about it today, it became kind of liberating for me, I think. I mean, you know, I think in our modern culture, especially in a business culture, you know, we want to go for the close. ABC, always be closing, right? We always want to get somebody to pray that 25-word sinner's prayer, or we want them, you know, to finally come around to our position. But I've, especially in my career as a journalist, which is a career basically of asking questions, that I have found that it's often more helpful to ask the right questions rather than to have the right answers. And that let people, by dealing with the questions, come to the answers that you are probably not going to be able to cajole or argue them into. And I know I'm violating my own principle by going straight to an answer rather than a question, but I would recommend a book by Greg Koukl called Tactics if you're interested in this topic any further. He talks about questions being a strategy for putting a pebble in someone's shoe. And by just getting them to think, to be bugged by the question that you might have for them, so that they keep dealing with it over and over, even after you're long gone.
I'll stand up for this one. I think I mentioned the ministry Young Life. The philosophy of Young Life is they talk all the time with their leaders about winning the right to be heard. And the idea of that being you don't just show up at a house with a bunch of high school kids and tell them what's important to you, because guess what? They don't care. They do start caring when you start investing in their lives and showing up on their turf and meeting them where they're at. And they start seeing, hey, there's something different about that person. There's something different about their life. I'm not sure what it is, but I want to spend more time with them. I want to be with them more. Then you've earned the right to be heard, and now all of a sudden the message is received. And I think at work, you know, the Benhams touched on it. Nobody's interested first and foremost in what you have to say. If you're lousy at what you do, if you're cutting corners, if you're cheating customers, you know, if my marriage were a train wreck, I probably wouldn't earn the right to talk to somebody about how to have a better marriage. If my life's a train wreck, first and foremost, who's going to want to be more like me? Why would I want to be more like a guy that, again, that isn't treating customers the right way, or shows up to work late, or is always grumbling and complaining behind people's backs? Matthew 5 talks about being salt and light. And what does salt do? It preserves and it enhances. You know, I mean, I love corn on the cob. Everybody loves corn on the cob. What do you put on it? You put butter and salt. I've never bitten into a piece of corn on the cob and said, that is awesome salt. That was outstanding. The salt just enhances the flavor of the corn. And the idea is, Christians, we're to enhance everything we do, every business transaction, every meeting that we go into. We go do a sales presentation. I don't want them just to think, you know, hey, our company's great. Hey, the idea is, hey, did you put a lot of time and effort into that? Did you do all you can do? Did you deliver more value to your employee? It's building relationships. Again, when you sit next to somebody on an airplane and you've got a 2 or 3 hour window with them, hey, I have no problem with, you know, sharing Christ with that person. The philosophy's different when someone works in the next office, because you're with them. They see you every day. They see what you're like away from work. They see what you're like when things don't go well, when you get ripped by the boss, when another employee does something. How are you going to handle it? Whether you're a boss or you're subordinate, people are watching. So it's the idea of, again, consistency, being more like Christ each day, and winning the right to be heard. And hopefully we'll have an opportunity to talk about some specific examples I've had of where that's translated into opportunities to share the gospel with folks.
There's an old saying that anything in the animal kingdom with its head down gets eaten. And there's nothing truer than in business. We live this thing every single day. And I'll tell you the two things that I really try to keep in mind. The first is just an awareness. Two things: awareness, expectation. First off is just an awareness of others. If you all are, guys, we're already outfitted with these things. You don't have to go and learn anything new to go and be salt and light today. When you leave this room, there's nothing new for you to learn, right? First off, just be aware, right? I mean, if you're in the real estate business, the Benhams, if they're in the real estate business, they're going down the road and they just happen to be there, and somebody sticks a foreclosed sign in the yard. I mean, if they're sort of looking at their own deal, they're never going to see it. But if they're looking, they're aware, they're going, there's something I should probably call them, see what that's about. Guys, y'all do that in business every day. Just do that with people, right? Just have your head up. Be aware of others. Be aware of who they are, the way they look, the way they walk, the way they move, the way they talk. Be the light that you want to see. And second is be expectant, right? Expect God to show up. After you're aware and you're helping these people, you're aware of these people and their needs, and you're being that point of light, expect God to show up. He's not going to leave you hanging. I see so many people, they're out there, they don't go with an expectant heart. They're like going, God doesn't show up. They're never even looking. Their heads are down. Keep anything with your head down gets eaten in the animal kingdom. Keep your head up, be aware, and keep an expectant heart. And that really helps me when I'm around people.